Hi, this is Tom with Vantage Math. In this video, we're going to look at what I consider one of the most useful parts of math, and that's the unit rate. Very few parts of math we use every day and impact our life every single day like the unit rate. So we're going to talk about the real basics of unit rates and how they impact our life. So that's coming up next on Vantage Math.
All right, the basics of unit rates. So when we're talking about unit rates, we're talking how much of one thing or of a thing to one of another. Now, when we're also talking about unit rates, the order in which you calculate this is going to matter. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. So first, here are like 4 unit rates. There's some of the ones you might be more familiar with. For example, miles per hour. You might see that like when we're in a car or something, for example. You might see this one here, miles per gallon. Again, this would deal like if you're buying a new car, you might look at the miles per gallon that a car gets. Another unit rate we would see quite a bit would be like points per game. So if you go to a sporting event, might be a basketball player or a team, how many points per game they get. And another one you would see quite a bit, some variation of cost per pound, or it could be cost per ounce or cost per gallon. So those are some of the unit rates you've probably seen. Now, if you're noticing, you've got miles per hour, miles per gallon, points per game, and cost per pound. I'm emphasizing the word per. Per refers to each. And when we're using the word per, it's going to tell us that we're going to be dividing. So per is each, and when we see per, we're going to be dividing. So when you're looking at a miles per hour, it's really saying miles divided by hours. So miles per gallon is miles divided by gallons. Same with points. It would be points divided by games, or cost per pound would be the cost divided by the number of pounds. Wherever you see that word per, that's telling us when we're trying to calculate it that we're going to be dividing. And you can see we're going to do that on all these right here. So here are like real quick 4 basic examples of this. So if I told you we went 10 miles in 2 hours and I wanted to find the miles per hour, I would take the miles, 10, divide it, which is the per, and then the hours too. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it would be 5 miles per or each hour. For miles per gallon, I'm going to be taking the miles and we'll be dividing it by the gallons. So we get the miles per gallon. So it would be, in this case, 30, that's the miles, divided by, and then the 5, which is the number of gallons. And in this case, it would be 6. So it's 6 miles per gallon. If we're trying to find out, like, for example, how many points per game, we're going to be taking points and we're going to be dividing that by the number of games. So it would be 80 divided by 5. Actually, it should be 4, so we'll change that. So it's 80 divided by the 4 games, and that would give us 20. So 80 divided by 4 is 20, so that would be 20 points per game. And again, if we're looking at cost, or in this case, like dollars per pound, you would just take the total number of dollars, 27, and if we want to find per, it'd just be divided by, in this case, 3 for the 3 pounds. So 27 divided by 3 would be 9. So it's $9 per pound. All right, the following are 6 examples of some basic unit rates. We're going to look at soup packets, mangoes, a Mercedes, the M1 Abrams tank, Navy football, and a BMW. All right, so let's look at example number 1. This is going to be the packets of soup. So in this one right here, this is from Kroger's, and they have the price, it's $2/$4. And so if you take 2 divided by 4, like it sort of looks like on the sign, you would get 0.5. If you take 4 divided by 2, you would get 2. So this is where the order kind of matters. And you also need to know what these numbers stand for. The 4s here represent the dollars, and the 2 represents the packs. So if you go 2 divided by 4, you get 0.5. What they're saying here is it's 0.5 packs per dollar. So you basically get a half of a pack for $1. If you do it the other way and you do the money divided by the packs, you get 2. So it's $2. So it's $2 for each pack. Now, both of these are correct. You could use either one, but the one that probably makes a little bit more sense to me would be the one where they're actually telling you the price per pack. So like the $2 per pack would be probably a little more common. All right, so here's example number 2. So we're looking at mangoes. So Kroger's again, they're saying 3 for $5. And again, it looks a little odd because they have the slash here, makes it look like a division sign. If you did go 3 divided by 5, you would get 0.6. But you have to know you're taking mangoes divided by dollars. So what you just found is you would get 0.6 mangoes for every $1 per dollar. Okay, kind of an odd way of pricing it. If you switched it and you did $5 divided by the 3 mangoes, you would get 1.66 repeating. You could round it to 1.67, which would be $1.67 per mango. And that one would make sense. The next one we're going to look at next is going to be the Mercedes. So let's say we're going to try to find maybe the miles per gallon. So on this particular Mercedes, we traveled 391 miles, and we did that using 17 gallons of gasoline. So in this problem, we might want to try to find out, okay, what was our miles per gallon? So since it's miles per gallon, we're going to start with miles, which is the 391. Per, that's the one telling us we're going to use the operation of division, so it's going to be divided by, and then number of gallons, 17. So when you take 391, you divide it by the gallons, 17, you come up with the number 23. So because we were doing miles divided by gallons, we just found out how many miles per or for each gallon. So 23 miles per gallon. Next, we're going to look at the Abrams tank. So in this one right here, we're going to look at miles per gallon, but we're also going to look at how many gallons per mile. So this particular tank, you can travel 280 miles using 500 gallons of gas. So if we tried to find the miles per gallon, we would take the number of miles and we divide that by the number of gallons. When you do that, we actually get a decimal 0.56. So what that means is we would go 0.56 miles on 1 gallon of gas. Now, if we flip this, we could look at, well, how many gallons for 1 mile? So now we're going to take gallons, the 500 divided by the miles, and we're getting 1.79. So what that means is we would need almost 1.8 gallons of gas just to travel 1 mile. All right, so next we're going to look at the Navy football team. Navy is kind of known for being a running team. So this past season, they rushed for 3,222 yards, and they did that carrying the football 592 times, and this was in a total of 13 games. So we can actually get a couple different unit rates here. For example, we could find yards per carry. So we would take that total number of yards, 3,222, divide it by the 592 carries, and we'd come up with 5.44. And that's how many yards every time they would carry the football, which is excellent. Now, you can also find out, well, how many yards per game do they get? So you would take the same total yards, the 3,222, and divide it by 13 games. And we find out that they were getting 247.8 yards per game, which was 4th or 5th best in all of college football. The next thing we're going to look at is this BMW. And on this BMW right here, we're going to calculate the miles per hour, but we're going to have a fraction involved here. So let's say a car had traveled 23 miles in 1/4 of an hour. Now it would be 15 minutes. And we want to know, what is their rate of speed, miles per hour? Well, if we're trying to find the miles per hour, we would still just take miles divided by hours, even though there's a fraction involved here. So we would just go 23, which is the miles, divided by the fact that it's 1/4 of an hour, and we would get 92. So this car is traveling 92 miles per hour. Well, hopefully you liked this and it was helpful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. We would love it if you subscribe to the channel. And until next time, we'll see you on Land of Math.